If you are a songwriter, you've probably had this before. You want to write a song, but it just doesn't work. There's no inspiration. You're staring at a blank page, you don't know where to start. It's just not happening. So that begs the question, can you write lyrics without having the creative juices flowing? Can we write lyrics without having the natural inspiration? Writing good lyrics for a song is hands down one of the most trickiest parts of the songwriting process, at least for me, because I've dealt with that problem for many times. And in the past few years, I've learned a couple of tips and tricks to work myself around this problem. So here they are, 7 tips on how to write lyrics without having any inspiration. Tip number 1, your creativity needs to flow. There is this famous interview of Ed Sheeran floating around on YouTube where he compares the songwriting process with dirty water that needs to come out of the tap before the clean can come out. And he hit the nail on the head as far as the comparison goes between the songwriting process, because creativity is also something that needs to flow. Sometimes you need to write something shitty before you can write anything good. So one way of kickstarting this creative momentum in writing is by sitting down with a piece of paper, a pen, set a timer, and just write about anything. And I mean literally anything. You cannot do this wrong. Write about your day. How is your day going? How is your week going? Describe the room you are in. Do some sort of diary style, like how you're feeling about certain persons in your life, or how you're feeling about yourself, or maybe you want to go a little bit more political or some more heavier stuff immediately. But as far as just a simple thing like describing something in great detail is enough. Another example I like to give is what I like to do is write down my dreams. So when I wake up in the morning, I've had this crazy dream about something, and dreams tend to fade away really fast, right? And I like to just sort of capture the dream and just write it down really quick, and then I have my dream on a paper, and it's a really unique story which I came up with while I was asleep. Really cool that
my brain can do that, by the way, when I'm asleep, not doing anything.
So now we come to tip number 2, finding an interesting angle or changing your perspective. So what happens when we write about something? Everybody does this unconsciously. It's you write from a certain perspective. Maybe it's a sad and emotional perspective. Maybe you're writing from a political perspective, or maybe you're more writing through the lens of humor. It's all fine. The thing is, we've got to become aware of this lens we are having. We are basically like this. We're only viewing it in one way. A trick I'd like to do is to read my own text that I've just written in 10 minutes and sort of detach myself emotionally and think like, is this really what I think? Or is there another way that I can think about this subject? Or maybe I can criticize myself in a way, you know? Is it true or is it not true, you know? And what happens then is there emerges some sort of contrast within your story, within your idea, and slowly an idea is developing itself. And this is good. This is what we're after. Now we have some sort of original idea. For example, when I write about the past, for example, I always do this through a nostalgic lens. Like the past, oh, it was so great. The past, everything went right in my life, and the past is great. And
the future is bad, and the future is a big monster, and you know.
And of course, that's not true. I'm always looking at the past through this romantic lens, always romanticizing the past. But it wasn't always nice, the past, you know. And the future can also be really great, perhaps, you know. So maybe I shouldn't be so nostalgic about the past, and maybe I can also be a little bit nostalgic about the future. And I don't know, it's not a fully fleshed out idea yet, but it's just a starting point, and it gives you some sort of foundation to build upon. Eventually, the trick is to sort of fall in love with your idea, with the world you are creating. And once you've stumbled upon this idea and you're completely in love with this idea, you can now start to... We already know that most songs are under 3 minutes, right? And we know that most songs have a verse, chorus, bridge, chorus structure, right? We already know that the choruses are all going to be the same. The choruses are generally there to convey one core message in just 1, 2, or 3 phrases, and it needs to be fairly simple, okay? In the verses and in the bridge, we can tell our story and we can build some sort of arc. We can't write our entire song through the same perspective all the time because it gets really boring once we get to the second and third chorus. So every time a verse comes around, we're going to do something interesting with it. So for example, what we can do is in the first verse, we can talk about our subject from our first perspective, the way we were looking from it naturally. And then the chorus comes along. In the second verse, we're going to turn our perspective. We're going to flip it. And we're going to criticize, maybe ask some questions. Maybe we can change the time within the song. Maybe the first verse happens in the past and the second verse happens in the future. Something like that, you know, so it develops. And then in the bridge, you can have some sort of cathartic moment where you can draw a conclusion, or you can have some sort of plot twist or something, you know. So the final chorus will again be interesting to listen to for the listener. So now that we've divided our song into little subcategories, now all of a sudden we don't have to write such a big, scary lyric anymore. It's just these tiny little pieces that we need to write, and you can almost look at them like little poems that you've got to write. Which archetype or theme are you writing about? This took me quite some time to realize, but once I've learned it, I started to write much better songs. And it all starts with the realization that everything you're feeling and experiencing in your life, in the history of mankind, probably has already been written about by someone, you know? So there is literature, there are songs, there are poems, we now have the internet, so it's all available to you. This might sound a little bit depressing to you, that everything has already been written about, so you can't really write anything unique anymore, but it should in fact liberate you, because you know now that there are a lot of great examples out there of the same thing that you want to write about, so you can learn from those examples. Tip number 5. Don't be afraid to steal. This tip goes hand in hand with the last one. There is this little book called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. You're probably already familiar with it because it's a very known book. In this book, he writes about that art is never 100% original. In fact, it's always some sort of amalgamation of other pieces of art put together by some sort of artist. And just the fact that this particular artist has put those things together, that's what is unique about it. So now that we know the archetype of our lyric, the story, the theme we are going to write about, we can do some research on other songs that are already writing about that theme. Let's say we want to write about love and as a theme, and nostalgia. Now we can do some research online. We can listen to songs, we can read books, we can read Wikipedia articles, we can read poems, inspirational quotes, YouTube videos. It doesn't really matter. It's all about widening your perspective and gaining insights that you didn't have before. So when you are in the middle of the lyric writing process, you are probably going to have a lot of different ideas. And you can see ideas like clouds. They will float by, and once they are there, they are really clear for you to see, and that's great, that's a great idea. But they float away, and once they're not there anymore, they are kind of hard to bring back to your memory. So we've got to find some way to capture them, you know? You can Another way of looking at it is that ideas are like the jellyfish and you are SpongeBob, basically. And you've got to capture them because they're going to float away. So there are basically 3 scenarios that can happen. The first one is that my idea sucks, so I don't have to write it down. Well, first of all, don't shoot down your idea so quickly because you don't know if this really is a bad idea. Maybe later on it can be the best idea ever. You never know. And secondly, stop criticizing yourself because you're only holding yourself back. Just write it down, let it sink in. It's not going to hurt you writing down your terrible idea. Just look at the idea. Maybe you can find something interesting about it. Why do you think it sucks? Improve upon it. That's a better way than just, oh, no, that idea sucks. The second scenario is that it's like the clouds I was talking about earlier, that they're just floating by and your idea is floating by and, oh, this is a great idea. This is such a great idea. I will remember it. This one is special. I'll remember this one. Or it's such an obvious thing, but you're never writing it down. In the moment that you are having the idea, it seems really clear and you might think, I don't have to write this one down. Just write every detail down. And the third scenario that can happen when an idea comes by is that you're not even noticing that you are having an idea. And if you are that person, that's really bad because you are too distracted. You are probably there is a person in the room that's distracting you, or you're watching TV while you're trying to write, or listening to music, checking your phone. Get rid of absolutely every form of distraction and go sit in a quiet room with a piece of paper and a pen and enjoy the silence, because a lot of people are very uncomfortable with silence. But if you are silent and you allow yourself to be silent, you can suddenly notice thoughts you're having. You can suddenly notice the ideas popping up in your mind. If you sit in silence for long enough and if you have enough patience, I guarantee you, you are going to have ideas and you only have to write them down. Tip number 7. Don't lose sight of the bigger picture. The Night Watch is an absolutely massive painting by the Dutch famous painter Rembrandt. The canvas is absolutely massive, and in order to paint this picture, he had to constantly step away from the painting, like several steps to see the whole canvas. And I'd like to use this metaphor for the songwriting process, because you've got to take breaks every once in a while. You cannot sit for 3 hours straight trying to write something, because this is going to happen again. You're going to look at it through only that particular moment in time. Maybe tomorrow you are going to think in a completely different way about your lyrics and you don't like it anymore. So take breaks, take walks, and this is a marathon, not a sprint. Some of the best lyric ideas come to you when you are doing something completely else, like taking a shower, going for a walk, going to the gym. And sometimes it's like when I put my body in a flow, my creativity gets into a flow as well. When you're doing something very simple like the dishes, your brain is still processing everything on a back burner. And there you have it. 7 tips on how to write lyrics without having any inspiration. For me personally, it's just the more you do it, the better you get at it. And as soon as you stop writing, your creativity tends to stop as well a little bit. And when that happens, it's very frustrating. But try to remind the story about the dirty tap water, because when you are in a flow, everything gets much easier. Of course, the lyric writing process is something very complicated and it's not always as simple as it sounds. So if it's too heavy for you, if it's too hard for you to do, just as in the gym with lifting weights, try to make it lighter for yourself. Try to make it really easy. So why not write one phrase every day? Why not write just 2 minutes every day? Everybody can do that. And if that doesn't work and you don't like doing it anymore, That's okay too. Take a break, try again the next day. Because at the end of the tunnel, if you have enough discipline and patience, there is going to be a song in the end. I guarantee it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please support the channel by subscribing and liking this video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.